My name's Brad. I'm a single man who works in the service sector. I found some simple ways to create a realistic budget and to include financial literacy concepts in my spending plans. I budget based on paychecks, which are paid every 2 weeks or 26 times per year. And I use simple tools such as a calendar, paper, and pen. And I record income, bills, expenses, and savings. I use sinking funds for expenses that do not happen every month. And I also use a digital envelope system called Cube Money. This channel's theme is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." I used to have an unhealthy relationship with money and credit, and I did seek help. Eventually, my mind was changed, and my attitudes had shifted on how to deal with money. Once my heart changed, the tools that I used seemed to work better and better. This week, the video is a little bit different than most because I'm looking at the next 26 weeks, and I'm looking to see if there's a better way that I can stretch my bills to through the 26 weeks versus looking at them as a monthly obligation. So if I can put away a little bit every single time that I get paid for those 26 paychecks, it should give me a little bit more leeway per paycheck to put towards other expenses and some of my sinking funds. So I hope you enjoyed this video. All right, the first bill that I am going to look at is the bill for rent. Now I pay $6.95 for rent, and that includes my apartment. Oops. And also a storage unit. And I'm going to take it for an entire year. So I took the monthly times 12. It comes to an annual expense of $8,340. All right, so I know that I'm going to get 26 paychecks over the course of the next 12 months. So I'm going to take that annual expense divided by 26 paychecks. Comes to a little over $320. I could put $321 here, but I like the round number of $320. That we can start with that number. And that'll be each paycheck. My goal is to take $320 out of each paycheck. And then I already know that the beginning balance, there was already a balance in my digital envelope for rent to cover 1 month's rent. Because rent was due on the 1st of March. And that was just 2 days ago. And so that money was already taken out 2 days ago, and so it was an expense of $695. So my beginning balance was $695. I already had an expense of $695. That brings my current balance to 0. Okay, so now what I did is I took the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I took the next 9 paychecks and I wrote down, or I typed in the dates of those paychecks. And so my goal is to take $320 out of every paycheck. So I'm going to call that savings. I'm going to put that money into my envelope marked rent. So it's really my rent savings envelope. So each time I want to take $320 out. of my paycheck and put it into this envelope. All right, now that I have all those recorded, I want to find out what my expenses are going to be during that same time period. So I always know that this money is due on the first day of each month. And so the 1st of March hit before my paycheck. The next time will be the 1st of April, which will hit right before this paycheck. So I'm going to put it in the spot right above April 1st. Then I'll find May, and in May, the due date for rent is the same day that I get paid. So I'll put it right on that same line. Then in June, comes right after this paycheck. And then July will come right after this paycheck. And each time, they're going to take out $695. I have it set up with as an electronic funds transfer. So they're going to take it out automatically on that date. Okay, now what I want to do is carry over my balances and find out, are there any dates where I have a negative balance, where I don't have enough in my envelope to pay for rent. Because if there's any of those, I want to fix that and get ready for, so that way I can be ready for a longer period of time, knowing that I'm putting away enough money to pay for this bill. So on the 6th, my first paycheck, I'm adding $320. So the balance is going to be $320. Then on the next paycheck, there's no expenses in between these two paychecks. So I'll take $320 plus $320, and that comes to $640, right? And then I have an expense before my next paycheck. So I have to take my balance, $640, minus the expense, which is $695. So that equals a minus $55. So I don't want a minus amount in my envelopes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add $55 to this first payment. So that's going to change this to be $375. And if you want to do this in pencil and just erase the numbers and do it that way, that could be a lot cleaner than what I'm doing here. But so instead of a 55 negative, that changes this to a 0 now. Okay, so 0 plus 320 is from my savings that I'm adding to it. That's going to equal 320. 320 plus 320 is going to be another 640. This time, 640 plus 320 minus 695 is going to equal 265. 265 plus 320 is 585. 585 plus 320 is 905. 905 minus 695 is 210. 210 plus 320 is 530. 530 plus 320 is 850. And then 850 minus 695 is 155. Okay, so if all you're interested in is seeing for the next 9 paychecks, I want to make sure that I'm okay with my rent money. This is a good way to plan it out. Maybe you only want to plan things out 5 paychecks at a time, 6 paychecks at a time. But I really want to pan this out all the way through the next year. So I did another form with 26 paychecks, and I already put in all of the numbers. And so what I found here, let me zoom in. Here's where I had to change that minus 55 to 0. And I added $55 to the 320, and I came up with 275. Or 375. So then I kept going. I kept doing the math all the way down. I didn't have any more negative numbers. Carried it over to the next column. But then I came up with a negative number again over here in October. So it was minus $10. So I changed that to 0. I added $10 to this 375. So that first payment is now 385. And then I changed the negative 10 to 0. And I kept doing the math all the way down. And I didn't run into any more negative numbers. So for the next 26 paychecks, as long as I put in 385 for the first paycheck and 320 for all the rest of the paychecks, I'm good. I know with my job that I'm going to have some overtime for this paycheck, this coming one, and I'll also have some overtime for the next paycheck, but I'm not guaranteed overtime for any other paychecks at this point. I'm sure that somewhere along the line I'll probably get overtime again, but I only know for sure that these 2 paychecks are going to get overtime. So I know that I'm going to have the extra money to put in here. Now, some of my bills, though, because of their due dates, it's quite a bit more on this one if I'm doing the same kind of a worksheet. So I would split it. So let's say that I don't think I can add another $55 plus $10, $65. But maybe I can split between these two since I know I'm going to get overtime on both. And I could just add $30 on this one and then $35 on this one, kind of split that difference. I could do that. So for some of my bills, that's what I did. Most of them, I just had a lump sum on the first paycheck. And some of them I split between the first and the second paycheck. And then starting on the third paycheck, all of my bills have the same amount of money for each paycheck that's coming out. So that's how I've got this set up. And I needed some kind of a worksheet to track my progress there. So that's what we'll look at next here. So this is for the pay period of my next paycheck, which is coming up this week, right? And I put in all my bills on this worksheet, and I put in what their due dates are. And this one, I figured out this first paycheck is going to be $385 that I'm going to add to the fund. And the balance, for the beginning balance, it's at 0 right now, so I put 0. And then when I get this added into the fund, I'll do a check mark over here. We're not going to pay anything out of this paycheck for rent because it's not due until April 1st. And we're looking at this time frame here for this coming paycheck. So I just put a dash for how much I'm planning to pay from this paycheck. Nothing. So there won't be anything paid, and there won't be a date that it was paid because it's going to be a future worksheet that'll be paid. But then once I get this funded, I'll take the beginning balance plus the actual funded amount, $385, and I'll carry it over to my ending balance. Then that way, when the next paycheck comes around, I can just start with the beginning balance for the March 20th, I can do that. Just take the ending balance from over here. So even if you're not using digital envelopes, you can use a worksheet like this, and then you know exactly what's in your checking account for your bills. But this is how I'm doing it. I'll have a way to double check these balances just by opening up my digital envelopes in my cubes. And so this second paycheck, I've decided that I'm going to the $320 per paycheck at that point. So I'm going to plan on funding that much. And then once it's funded, I'll put it here. I'll do a check mark here. And then the payment for this period of time will be during the time of when rent is due. So I have to take a payment of $695 out of the envelope, and then I'll mark down that it was paid and which date, what the date was that it was paid. And I'll take my beginning balance, I'll add the funded amount, and then I'll minus the payment amount, and I'll have an ending balance. And then for the third week, I can use that ending balance to start my beginning balance again. That third week, there's not going to be any rent due because of the dates that are up here. So I'm going to plan on adding $320, but I'm not going to plan on paying anything. So I'll just take whatever the beginning balance is, add the $320 once it's funded, and I'll carry that over to be the ending balance. And this will be what I'll do for all the rest of the paychecks for the rest of the year. I'm going to do $320 for rent. So I'm doing this same process for all of my bills, and I'm planning these out so that this will simplify my main planning worksheets for each paycheck. And it's going to spread my payments out over the course of 26 pay periods. And so that means that I'll have a little bit more money per paycheck to put towards other things, rather than thinking, oh, rent is $695. I have to come up with half of that. So I should probably come up with $350 every single paycheck. Well, I could do that and then I'd have extra. But as we see, like once I do that lump sum at the beginning, I don't have to come up with $350. I just have to come up with $320. That gives me $30 every single paycheck that I could put towards something else, whether it's for my prescriptions, which is about $30 per paycheck, or whether it's, extra money that can go into groceries or something like that. Here's a finished version of my list of bills. And what I did is I took, for the next 3 paychecks, and made a worksheet for each of the 3 paychecks, because I knew that the first week I was going to have higher amounts and I wanted to get the total so that I can use it in my budget. And then the second week is also a little bit higher, but not as high as the first week, or the second paycheck, I should say. And then the third paycheck is what I'm going to go with for the rest of the year for my paychecks. So I know that the first 2 paychecks I'm getting some overtime, so I'm able to pad that quite a bit to give me a little bit of a relief for the rest of the year. Then it'll also make my budgeting easier, because then when I go to work on my budget, when I get to the bills section, all I need to do is write down that one line, and then I can just kind of move on to expenses and savings and whatnot. So if everything works well, this should help to streamline the rest of my budget for the rest of the year. If you've made it this far through the video, thank you so much for watching. If this is the type of content that you like and appreciate seeing online, please give a like and comment below. If you would like to see further videos of this type, consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss further videos. I hope that you have a blessed day, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.